Game time!
Our story takes place in Smilesville, inside a cute little house on Sugar Lane. Within the house, all is quiet, but delve deeper and you will find yourself in the basement. The basement has long since been transformed into a laboratory because the occupant of the house likes sciencey stuff. The occupant in question was about to make Encephalon history. Hey Evelyn, who are you talking to?
Tripped up Nileve, who had been untangling some wires next to the new machine her and her host had just spent 3 months building. Evelyn blinked and then smiled.
I was setting up the story, but I guess that's a narrator's job, huh?
She giggled, and then checked the notes on her clipboard. Both girls were wearing lab coats, and each of them had a pair of goggles sitting on their head.
Let's see. Get parts for cloning machine, check. Put together parts to build cloning machine, check. Plug in cloning machine. Nileve, is it plugged in? Is what plugged in?
Asked Nileve, chewing on a strand of her hair.
The machine! The machine! Don't get distracted! Focus!
Evelyn rubbed her hands together energetically.
This is the biggest thing that's happened in Encephalon since the discovery of water cherries!
Nileve let out a squeal of excitement, shoving the machine's plug into the outlet on the wall. It burst into life, making a loud whirring sound.
Huzzah!
Nileve shouted, leaping into the air. The cloning machine was a large metal capsule, big enough to fit one person, and connected to it was a very complicated-looking computer. The screen had buzzed to life when the machine was plugged in, and the system was in the process of booting up.
Check,
said Evelyn, making a mark on her notes.
Next, wait for computer to start up.
She and Nileve stared at the screen as it continued to load, not speaking. After about a minute, Nileve's attention was directed at the ceiling. Evelyn checked her watch, tapping her foot impatiently.
Nileve, what operating system did you find for this?
She asked her other.
What?
Asked Nileve, her attention snapping back to Evelyn.
Operating system! Which one did you find? Oh, I got a great deal from the pawn shop in Wayward City!
Nileve explained happily.
The guy said it was Windows 98, and I was like, what happened to 99? And he said there was no 99, but it went to 2000. Windows 98?
Evelyn repeated in exasperation, and she smacked her palm to her forehead.
That's the last time I let you do the important shopping! Is 98 bad? I thought it would be better than 7 because 98 is higher than 7, and it's only 2 away from 100, and 7 is 93 away from 100, and 93 plus 98 is 191.
There was a short musical sequence that came from the computer, and Evelyn sighed in relief.
Okay, it's on. Check. Next, run cloning program that needs no explanation of how it got there.
Evelyn stood at the computer's dashboard, biting her tongue as she tapped away at the keyboard. While she did this, Nileve tried to lick her own nose.
Alrighty, it's running. Check. Now to put in some mind-blowing data. I'm hungry,
said Nileve suddenly as Evelyn continued to type.
We'll eat afterward,
she said, and then gave a squeak of delight.
Most excellent. We can check that off too. And now, the DNA sample.
She plucked a red hair from her head, opened what looked like a disk drive, set the hair in the tray, and closed it again.
Ready, Nileve? Ready, spaghetti!
Replied Nileve.
All right, goggles on!
They both pulled their goggles over their eyes.
Cloning process, initiate!
Evelyn thrust her index finger upon a large red button, and another whirring sound emanated from the machine. The girls watched in awe as the metal capsule shook violently, white puffs of smoke creeping out through the cracks on its door. Evelyn crossed her fingers tightly as the machine continued to work, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Then it stopped. The whirring slowed down and faded to silence, and the machine was still again. They stared at it for a moment before Nileve spoke.
Did it work?
She whispered. For a second, Evelyn thought it hadn't, but then the door opened, and a naked girl with shoulder-length red hair collapsed to the floor. Evelyn gasped, rushing forward to make sure she was okay. The girl groaned, looking up at Evelyn wearily.
What? Who are you? Who am I? Where am I?
She mumbled.
Hi, Evelyn. My name is Evelyn, but your name is also Evelyn. That means you need a new name,
said Evelyn in a rush. The clone looked extremely confused, and then spotted Nileve, who waved enthusiastically at her.
We could call you Evie. I'm Evie?
Asked the girl.
That's right, you're my clone. I created you, and that's Nileve, my other.
Nileve's waving increased in speed.
Other?
Evie repeated, but just then, Nileve let out an unnecessarily loud gasp.
There's another person in the capsule!
She shouted, pointing desperately at the door. Evelyn looked inside, and she too gasped in surprise. Crumpled on the metal floor of the capsule was a second naked girl, this one with shoulder-length teal hair, and her entire body seemed to shimmer just like Nileve's did.
Oh my glob!
Evelyn shrieked, and Evie flinched in fright.
Nileve, that looks like you! Evie has another too because you have another!
Nileve stated, looking like she was going to explode.
How did I not think of that?
Evelyn helped Evie to stand, but she swayed on the spot, so Nileve had to support her as her host rescued the second girl. Nileve's clone opened her rainbow eyes, looking around quickly. She screamed, flailing her arms to try and get away from Evelyn, who held on tightly.
Wait!
She pleaded with the frightened other.
Calm down. I know this is all quite alarming, but I can explain everything if you calm down.
The girl froze.
Okay.
She said.
If Evie is Evie, then that makes Nileve Yeti, right?
Nileve inquired, still holding on to Evie, though she seemed to be holding rather tightly. Evie was grunting, trying desperately to loosen Nileve's grip.
Right,
concluded Evelyn.
And as much as I like looking at boobies, Evie and Yeve need clothes. To the upstairs!
Evelyn and Nileve coaxed the clones up the basement stairs, leading them to Evelyn's bedroom. There, she dressed Evie in some of her own clothes, and a matching outfit with inverted colors appeared on Yeve. Then Evelyn sat Evie and Yeve on her bed and proceeded to explain how they came to be. She also had to explain what a host and an other was, which Yeve accepted right away. Evie, however, looked a bit upset.
I have a mental disorder?
She asked, her brow furrowed. Nileve sneezed.
Yes,
Evelyn replied.
But don't worry, it's completely manageable if you know how, and I'll help you. Nileve and I have been together all our lives, so it will be no problem. Thankfully, our others are pretty docile, so we won't get suicidal or anything like that. Not usually, at least.
Evie looked over at Yeve, who was puffing out her cheeks, and then squishing them so that it pushed the air past her lips, making a raspberry.
I don't want another,
Evie told Evelyn.
I want to be normal. Having another doesn't mean you're not normal,
Evelyn explained.
It just means your brain functions a little differently than most people. Trust me, we're not the only ones with others, and it could be way worse. I love Nileve and wouldn't give her up for the world. I know that you and Yeve will get along just fine with proper medication and therapeutic exercises.
This didn't seem to make Evie feel any better.
Look how sparkly I am!
Yeve exclaimed, staring at her own hands. Nileve jumped forward, pressing her nose against Yeve's.
I'm sparkly too!
She sang.
You have rainbow eyes! You have rainbow eyes too!
Said Yeve, as if she had just noticed this. The two others embraced happily, giggling uncontrollably.
Nileve, thank you for all of your help with the machine,
said Evelyn, touching Nileve's shoulder to get her attention.
I think you should take Yeve to your home in the city and let her get some rest. Talk to her and tell her about all of the exciting things in Encephalon. Obi-Kimi!
Nileve squeaked, and she grabbed Yeve's hand, running out of the room with her. Evelyn giggled lightly, and then met her clone's eyes.
I'm sure you're tired too,
she said.
I don't really know what tired feels like,
Evie muttered.
My chest and throat are kind of tight, and my head hurts. Is that normal? Sounds like you're overwhelmed,
Evelyn said with a shrug.
I'll make you some sweet leaf tea and help you relax. Be right back!
Evie watched her leave, and then wrapped her arms around herself gently. She didn't know how she felt about her sudden existence, but she knew she wasn't nearly as excited as her creator was, or her other.
Medication?
Evie muttered to herself.
I don't want to take medication.
She rubbed her temples to try and soothe her head, simply waiting for Evelyn to return.